Hello, welcome to the guide on how to defeat Empress of Light using the Terraria Access mod with no vision. I'll be going over some general notes about prep and recommendations, then the Prismatic Lacewing, which is the spawner and how to get it, then the fight itself with all of the attacks in both phases and how you can move to mostly dodge them, and there's a complete fight at the end using gear that's available up to right after you beat Plantera. Anything I think is of note that I forget to mention, I will put in the description along with timestamps following that. So for Empress, you really don't need to make an arena. If you happen to have one already set up for the previous bosses, you can start the fight there and then move wherever you need to. Although note that if it's only 400 tiles wide horizontally like mine is, made out of whatever platform, you'll most likely go out of that range anyway, and therefore any buff stations on it will not apply for most of the fight. But really, you can do this without any arena at all, as long as most of your terrain is flat. If there are a lot of hills or other blocks that you're worried about colliding with, it might be a good idea to make a long flat platform after all. You can make the horizontal platform out of asphalt as well if you really wanted to. Although again, I don't find it necessary since you'll be airborne most of the time. And I really can't be bothered to build more arenas than I have to. What you will definitely need are a great pair of wings and boots that will help boost their ascent speed. I personally go for Fishron wings since I usually kill Empress after I've already beaten Duke. And speaking of that, I will link a guide I made for him in the description as well. Infinite flight mounts also work here, although I will be demonstrating this with wings since they're more readily available, and personally I find them easier to control. You don't have to worry about accidentally reaching the top of the world, managing your altitude to make sure you don't get stuck on ground blocks, so you can just use the natural falling speed or the flight duration. And generally I do just find it easier to change direction abruptly if I need to, or again fall out of the way of certain attacks, than using the D-pad alone for the infinite flight mounts. If you do go the infinite flight mount route, in classic mode unfortunately you only have the UFO from the Martian saucers. Otherwise you have the black spot for the pirate mount from the pirate invasion, which did get heavily nerfed, so it's probably not nearly fast enough to dodge her attacks. The witch's broom from the pumpkin moon, and the shrimpy truffle from Duke Fishron. This is by far the best infinite flight mount option. However, it only really works at its full capability when it's either raining, submerged in liquid, like if you set up an arena with bubble blocks and fill them with liquids, or some other niche, less practical ways, like a player shooting you with a water gun or dumping water on yourself with a bucket. But if it is raining, or you have other conditions set up to trigger its ability, it will fly at 82 miles per hour, unless you touch the ground, in which case it will be crawling at 5 miles per hour, so don't do that. And it will also give you a 15% damage boost overall. These do trigger if you're below half health as well, although of course that's much riskier. As for weapons, since she has very high health and gets even higher defense in her second phase, again Duke Fishron helps here. I usually just use what I get from him. But after Plantera you also have a lot of options from the events, after Golem even more options, and especially if you're doing this post Pillars or Moonlord, you should be good there. Everything else you can just look up on the wiki as far as armor and accessories and everything. Do note that if you're trying to fight Empress during the daytime, you may run into some old guides that tell you to use something like the Hallowed Armor for its set bonus or other dodge chance accessories, and those no longer work. She would just ignore those and kill you.
Prismatic Lacewing.
Okay, to get the Prismatic Lacewing, which is the spawner, you need to go to the Hallowed biome at night after Plantera is defeated from any time between 7:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. Like the truffle worm, it's a critter that will appear and you can just teleport to it and grab with the bug net if you want to save it for later, or if you're ready you can just kill it right away to spawn the boss. Battle potions and water candles will increase the Prismatic Lacewing spawn rate, and likewise if you're too close to NPCs or an NPC town in general, it will decrease it, just like the truffle worm. If you are saving the Lacewings for later, make sure you release it in the Hallowed biome, otherwise it will immediately despawn most likely before you can kill it. Empress only enrages based on whether it's night or day, so you can freely take her out of the hallowed biome. It's actually preferred that you have as much open space as possible, and with few blocks to glide into. Alright, it just turned night here.
Time 7:44 p.m. Position.
So I'll go ahead and see if I can find one.
Lava group bugnet.
I need to get out of the NPC town though.
Explode craft and with custom item critters. All. Owl 2 of 8. Lightning. 26. Bird 7. Party light. All. Owl 2 of 8.
Oh, none of those are prismatic lacewings. Should I get out of here?
All. 1 campfire. Cardinal 2 of 6. Bunny 3 of 4. Lightning bug. Unreal. Locked onto unicorn.
Oh, get out of here.
Team stores up. Team 10. All damage warning. Team
Okay, should be out of there now.
critters. No critters detected near. Lock defense. Set biome. Hello.
And I'm still in the hallowed biome, so it should spawn at some point.
Prismatic Lacewing 2 of 2. 38.
Up there it is.
All. Prismatic Lacewing 2. All. Prismatic Lacewing 2 of telling. Team stores up. 2 critters. Team 12. Critters. No critters detected near. Not gold chat. Not items. Custom with end craft. Rock off.
Almost died there.
Hotbar.
Okay, let's see if I got it.
Empty. Slot 22 unicorn horn. Prismatic Lacewing. Slot 33.
Yep.
Consumable.
There you go.
Its wings are so delicate. You must be careful not to damage it.
And now onto the fight.
Boss Phase 1.
Alright, I'll go ahead and spawn the boss.
Relic. 4 up. Lock onto prismatic. Turning menu open. Infinite items button.
Okay, so she has 20 attacks in total, which is more than any other boss in the game. But fortunately, they're consistent. If you memorize the pattern, then you're good. In phase 1, there's 10 of them. She starts by firing prismatic bolts, which home in on you, but they lose their tracking after a little bit. You can just run away from this horizontally, or fly away rather. Then she dashes, which you can dodge by moving vertically. She's always going to dash horizontally. I usually find it better to fall downwards or move downwards to dodge this. If you move upwards, you almost have to kind of do it preemptively. Otherwise, you're more likely going to get hit by her hitbox. Then she does a sun dance, which fires light beams around her that slowly move clockwise. You're normally supposed to dodge this by moving in between the lines, but of course, since we can't see that, that is not an option. You just fly away horizontally again. Although preferably this time, try to stay below her before she starts the attack, so you're less likely to get by any straight beams. Then she dashes again, same thing, vertically, preferably down. Then she does Everlasting Rainbow, where she shoots out stars or some light projectile that spiral outwards, and then spiral back in. Again, just run away from this horizontally, and you especially don't want to be in the vicinity of the attack when it spirals back in. Then Prismatic Bolts again, dash, and the new attack, Ethereal Lance. Here, she fires sword projectiles that are launched in the general direction the player was headed when they were summoned. This is a tricky one. This is one of the attacks I find the most inconsistent to dodge, along with some of the others in Phase 2. But the way I found that somewhat works here is by moving in a half circle, so listening to the lances, and then moving up, left, and then down, something like that. And preferably you end by going down as well, since she will dash right afterwards. Then once again, she will end this by doing Everlasting Rainbow. So the way I group this phase is into 2 groups of 5. You can see that the outer 2 attacks are both the same, and it's only the center one that changes, and it's very easy to remember that way. So in group 1, it's bolts, dash, Sundance, dash, rainbow. And then group 2, bolts, dash, ethereal lance, dash, rainbow. And again, you can see that the center attack is the only thing that changes in those 2. Now I will put myself in God mode and turn off speech so you can hear the sounds for each of the attacks. So we're starting with group 1, she should fire prismatic bolts. Yep, and then dash. And then Sundance. And then dash again. And then rainbow. And then starting to group 2. Bolt again. Dash. Ethereal Lance. Dash. And rainbow. And then she's back to group 1 here. She does bolts. And that is it for phase 1. Sorry about the enemy detection sound, by the way. Hopefully you can still hear everything fine. Also note that when you do have speech on, there will be occasional boss announcements. These are somewhat useful, especially the dashes. I think knowing when they're about to come in addition to listening for the sound as well, really helps, especially if you're moving upwards vertically instead. But other times, some of them might be mislabeled or just outright useless. For example, for the sun's dance, again, if we can't see them, we can't move between the lights. But still, it's there if you find that helpful to track as well, aside from the sounds.
Increase God mode. Current.
And now I will turn off God mode to actually try to dodge. I'm probably going to get hit here because I'm in the middle of a rainbow, but I should be at the start of the cycle again.
God mode off. Phase start.
Yep. Okay. She did bolts. She's going to dash in.
Fall damage.
Fall down. Then she does sunbeams, so I can just fall and go to the left of that. She's going to dash again. And this is the tricky one. So we're gonna, oh, never mind, that's the rainbow again, I forgot. But now she's going to dash again. And this is the tricky one. I just fell there. Okay.
Empress dash.
Rainbow. And she's gonna do bolts. She just did bolts. Bolts again. Down. Sunbeams. And then I'm gonna get hit here. I'm actually close. I just made sure I wasn't in God mode for that. And I think I mentioned this, but in case I haven't, I am looping around every time she dashes, just so I'm staying within the same area that I know is going to be open and not run into a bunch of blocks or hills or anything. And again, this is where the wings are very useful. There's several points there where I was just free falling when the flight duration ended, and it helped a lot when dodging the attacks. But that is it for phase 1, and I will be back when she gets to phase 2. I think this is when the fight gets really difficult.
Phase 2.
Empress dash from here. Rainbow dash first. Empress dash left. Jump.
There you go, she's in second phase. So, when you hear that sound in the middle of the fight, just to play it again, that means she's in second phase. In phase 2, she either has 9 attacks if you're in classic mode at night, or 10 attacks if she's enraged during the daytime or you're in higher difficulties. There's a slight difference with one of her attacks as well. I'll divide the attacks in this phase into 3 groups of 3, then 4, then 3. Although you can choose to divide it however you please. Whatever helps you memorize it. This is definitely harder to get a hold of than the first phase. So to start off with the first group of 3, she does Ethereal Lance version 2. This is where it differs a little bit depending on the situation or difficulty you're in. In classic mode, there will be 4 projectiles total. The first 2 fire horizontally, and the last 2 for the most part vertically. It's kind of at an angle where it could be top left of the screen to bottom right, but overall you can just think of it as vertically. In the daytime or higher difficulties, there's 6 total, and similar here. First 2 horizontally, last 4 vertically. You dodge these by moving in kind of an L shape, where the first 2 you will either fly up or fall down, and for the last 4 you want to go horizontally, left or right. Then she'll use the prismatic balls from phase 1, same thing there, run away horizontally, then dash, same thing as phase 1. In the second group there's another difference here, so it's either 4 attacks or 3 attacks. In classic she'll only fire the everlasting rainbow, then prismatic bolts, and then the Sundance. In daytime or higher difficulties, it's Ethereal Lance version 3, Rainbow, Bolts, Sundance. You can also group the Ethereal Lance at the end of the first group. I just put it here. This Ethereal Lance will home in directly on your position when they're fired, unlike the one from phase 1, where they launch in your relative position or where you're moving when they are summoned. To dodge this Ethereal Lance, you kind of move in a half circle as well, like you did for the first version, although it's supposedly a bit of a slower movement. This is probably the trickiest part of this whole phase, and where I get hit the most, so again, it's a bit inconsistent. Also keep in mind that she will fire the Everlasting Rainbow right afterwards, so you also want to move away from that horizontally. And then same thing for the Prismatic Bolts that come after that. For the Sundance that ends the group, you don't want to continue moving horizontally in a straight line, otherwise you will get hit multiple times. As you're moving away from the previous 2 attacks, the Rainbow and the Bolts, you also want to be falling down to make sure you're as far out of range of the Sunbeams as possible. And to end off the phase, in the last group of 3, she'll use Ethereal Lance from phase 1, so again, half circle, but not slow like for the version 3 one. And then she dashes and does Prismatic Bolts version 2. This you dodge the same way as version 1 pretty much, she just spawns them in a cloud around her instead. But same thing, you just move away horizontally. Then the cycle will reset, where she uses Ethereal Lance version 2 for the starter group 1, and everything else is the same. The tricky part here is getting ready to move to dodge the Ethereal Lance version 2 after she's used the bolts. So once again, I will let you hear the attacks individually, separately at first, and then try to group them. So Ethereal Lance version 2, you should hear 6 of them. And then she should use the Prismatic Bolts. And then dash. And then Ethereal Lance version 3. And then Everlasting Rainbow. And then Prismatic Bolts again. And then Sundance. Then Ethereal Lance from phase 1, the version 1. Oh, she's still using the Sundance here. There's Ethereal Lance. Dash. And that was Prismatic Bolts version 2. Okay, and now I'll try to group these. So, group 1, Ethereal Lance version 2. Bolts. Dash. And then group 2, Ethereal Lance version 3, Rainbow, Bolts, Sundance. So going back pretty quickly. And then in the last group, Ethereal Lance version 1, Dash, Bolts version 2. So there's Lance. Bolts. Those are the bolts, and then she resets the cycle here to start the first group of 3 again with Ethereal Lance version 2. Okay, and now let's see if I can actually dodge these. So she should be starting with Ethereal Lance version 2, and I'm going to try to move up for the first 2, and then left for the last 4. Might get hit by a straight Prismatic Bolt 2 here. I'll see.
Gun mode off.
Yeah, pretty sure that was a bolt that hit me, but I got the lances. Do bolts, I'm gonna fall down. Dash. Okay, this is a scary part. Lance. Right here. Okay, I got away from it. I was worried about the Sundance mostly. And then she should be firing another lance here. She dashes again. And then bolts. And then we're gonna try to stay up, move to the left for this reset the cycle. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's a lot more hectic than phase 1, but since it's still following a consistent pattern, you should be able to memorize the sound cues and movements, and eventually beat her. I will say, if you want a ridiculously easy fight and don't want to deal with all of this, just go melee, get vampire knives, and spam that along with your main damaging weapon, and you barely have to move. This even works on master mode. Of course, this doesn't apply for other classes that don't have such sustainability. Even Spectre armor with the lifesteal hood, you're probably going to die very quickly before she even gets close to second phase. Since you're pretty far from her for a good chunk of this fight, a lot of weapons, especially melee ones, well, aside from the Zenith, won't be able to reach that distance unless they have very long range themselves. The idea is to use the dashes as windows to get in a bunch of damage. So she's close to you, and of course she still wants to be moving, but that's when you'll most definitely be able to hit her. You can keep attacking, of course, especially if you're using a weapon that doesn't consume any mana or ammunition, but just know that's when you'll most likely get in damages after those dashes. And keep in mind as well, in second phase, she has 60 defense as opposed to 50 in phase 1, so again, that goes up. And she is also invulnerable at the start of phase 2. So really, you just want to stop attacking and dodge that first set of lances and continue on. That's the end of the guide. So this was probably a lot to take in, but hopefully it did help. And now that you have this framework, it'll take you far less attempts than it took me to beat her for the first time. And if that's all, take care. Otherwise, again, now onto the complete fight. Okay, I will go over my loadout briefly. It's about the same as what I used for Duke Fishron with some of his drops, as you heard there.
Unreal Tsunami.
That's his bow, the Tsunami, paired with
7,238 arrow.
Ichor arrows, and Venom arrows are available at this point and do work as well, but I just prefer the armor penetration since she has so much defense, especially in phase 2. Generally goes by faster.
Crafting gravestone. Can be placed on character panel.
Oh, that's not my character.
Character panel. Termite headgear. Helmets. Termite leggings.
So I'm using full shield my armor again with the headgear for the bow damage instead of the gun.
Warning Fishron wings. Accessory slot.
Fishron
Warning
wings.
amphibian boots. Accessory slot 2.
Amphibian boots, which replace the lightning boots. Lightning boots do work as well. I've used them and it's fine. But since I have these, you get this from fishing up a frog leg and sailfish boots very rarely. They do have greater vertical speed. So I prefer that when I do have it.
Warning frozen shield. Accessory slot 3.
Frozen shield, replacing the Ankh shield. Since she doesn't inflict any debuffs, I prefer this. Still has a knockback immunity, like the Cobalt shield and its upgrades. But below 50% health, it also decreases the damage you take by 25%. Very useful.
Warning worm scarf. Accessory slot 4.
Same thing, Warren Scarf.
Warning magic quiver.
I went over that. Again, very confusion
Warning
cord.
magic quiver. Accessory slot 5.
Magic quiver.
Warning ranger emblem.
Ranger emblem, just increasing range damage or bow damage or velocity.
Warning star veil.
And Star Veil. Already went over that last time.
Unreal.
So for this, let me check the time.
1023 DM position. 80s.
Ooh, this is gonna be close, but maybe I can do this. I'm not using the shrimpy truffle anymore. Any flight mounts, I'm just going to use wings and see how this goes. Also to show that it is possible with just wings as well.
Unlock cursor. Prismatic Lacewing. Slot 10.
Alright, let me buff this time.
Sanguine staff. 1 of 3 minion slots used. 2 of 3 minion slots used. 3 of 3 minion slots used.
Use my minions. I went over that in the last one, so I won't do it here.
Slot 10.
Kind of on a time crunch.
Locked onto no longer cast statue. Steed leg.
Where'd it go?
Locked onto Prismatic Lacewing. Slot 10. Smart. Which Steed's torso.
I did not spawn.
No longer targeting. No longer Steed. Locked onto worm. 5 health. Prismatic Lacewing. Unreal Tsunami. Extract and cut 5 crit flags. Crit. Goldfish shield 9. Prismatic worm. Goldfish worm 9. Prismatic Lacewing 3 of 10. 31 left. Locked onto worm. No longer targeting. 7 left. Locked onto no longer targeting.
Oh, so there we go. That was a horrible start.
20 right.
Hopefully I can actually do this.
Locked onto worm. No longer custom. Empress dash from left.
Okay, fall down.
Locked onto let's work. 3 right. 3 right.
Got a little bit distracted there trying to read some categories.
Smart person. No longer targeting. Locked onto
Just do the rainbow now. I believe she's going to do the lance next. And I'm just going to fall to dodge and dash here since the waves are falling anyway. Which is nice about those.
No longer targeting. Locked onto Empress of Light.
Dash, rainbow again.
Teleport rainbow dash target.
Okay, just have to dash it again.
No longer targeting. Platform. Locked onto platform. Move 2 lines.
Hope that was a Sundance and not a
100
dash.
59 of 600. Longitude all damage more Empress dash from left.
Again.
Help no longer targeting.
Yep.
Rainbow wall. Empress dash from right. Locked onto rainbow dash target.
And I'm looping around every time she dashes. As I
Empress dash
said,
from right. No longer targeting. All
dash
damage.
again.
Locked onto Empress. Light source form.
Lance probably going to get hit by.
Empress dash from left. No longer targeting. Platform. Locked onto Empress of Light. Spirit speed.
Okay.
All damage more Empress dash from right. 61,800. No longer
Face,
targeting.
yep, she's in phase 2. Okay, I'm following those.
Empress dash. Light source form.
Okay, that was close, I'm pretty sure.
Speed link. Empress dash from rainbow wall. Locked onto Empress of Light.
Dash to this. And this is where it gets very scary. Where she does Sundance.
Light source form. Move 2 lines. Speed link.
Got away from it.
No longer targeting. All damage more. Empress dash from light source form. Enter south. Empress locked platform. Enter course.
Okay, do
Speed links.
lasers again. I hit by one there.
130 Empress dash from rainbow wall. Move. No longer targeting. Platform. Empress dash from light source. 339 of 600. Longitude rainbow wall. Speed link. Empress dash from rainbow dash target.
At least I'm not getting hit by the dashes. And I know it's not the dashes because in Master Mode they do like almost 400 damage. You're almost dead by now.
Left with platform.
I say that.
Empress of rainbow wall.
Yeah, hit by
Locked
something.
onto Empress of Light. 32,400. Help 3 all damage more.
Okay, she lost track for a cycle. Not good.
Press. Locked onto Empress of Light. 20,000 rainbow wall. All damage. Empress dash.
Okay. This is a Sundance now. That. Hit by that. Damn it.
No longer. One more start.
Oh, he's dead.
Speed links.
Okay.
Explore prep. With custom item critters. All damage. Items. No drop.
Now the difficult part is finding where she landed.
Items. Mushroom Brio. Falling. Mushroom treasure bag. Empress of Light.
Oh, there you go. That took way too long to find. Okay.
Falling. 9,000. Custom item. Critter. Item. Custom. And prep. Inventory.
See what I got.
Inventory. Ammo. Endless quiver. Prep. Inventory. From light map empty. Slot 20 empty. Treasure bag. Empress of Light. Starring insignia. Slot 28. Equipable.
Okay, so
Rest
that's
of
her
the
expert mode
Increases
accessory.
flight intelligence.
This is
Expert.
great. It gives infinite flight and increased bunch of speed increases to flight and just general movement speed as well and acceleration.
Mythical Night Glow. Slot 27 empty. Slot 26.
Night Glow already had
Mythical
that.
Night Glow.
Good
Slot
white magic.
26. Starring empty. Empress
Okay.
of Light Relic. Slot 29.
So
Slot 29.
that is it. That could have gone better, I think, but it wasn't that bad. Still a first try thing for the recording. And once again,
Slot 28.
I am done. Thank you for watching.